Daddy Show. Step off.
Come on, won't you say it loud? Ayo, we gon' turn this out. Tom Clock's main event. Drop kick now and powerbomb. Ayo, bro, let's bring this on. Hey, hey, what is up? Oh, Captain, my captain, show the stuff. Power slammer, suplex 2. Hot garbage is just for you. Big breaker, cut a code red. Figure 4, hot times ahead. Since 2014, it's on. It's a 10 count, but stand up strong. Hey kid, no DQ, strong style. Chop, this is how it goes. Tom Clock's main event. Tom Clock's main event. Tom Clock's main event. Tom Clock's main event.
Hey, what's up, kids? Welcome back to the program. I got to get the timing right. It never fails. Every week there's something with the timing there because I did have it timed out where it just hit automatically, boom, as soon as the music stopped. We're live. So thanks for being patient. Welcome back to the show, kids. As always, something. Tom Clark's main event back here with you yet again on another Friday. This is episode number 376. Let's get the ticker ticking. So glad you guys have joined us here today. We hope you've had a great week. Hope everything's going well for you. Hope everybody out there is staying safe and sane as you possibly can be. I'll leave it at that. While you're here, kids, if you will, smash a like button for me and share this on your feed. Also, I've got something new I'm going to be hawking to you this week. And don't worry, it's nothing bad. I spoke to my guest today beforehand. I was like, is this too spammy? Because it kind of feels a little spammy. More on that to come as we get some more folks coming in here today. But yeah, coming at you very soon. Again, if you will, share this on your feed, kids. I would very much appreciate it. Remember to check us out on boinkstudios.com, B-O-I-N-K, boinkstudios.com. More on that in a bit later. It's been a good week. Hope you guys have had a great week. My week's been kind of up and down. If I'm being straight with you, not been a bad week. Could it have been better? Buddy, you better believe it. But it could also have been much worse. So I try to maintain a positive attitude all the time, because you know what they say, whatever doesn't kill you usually succeeds in the second attempt. You will notice my voice sounds a lot crisper, a lot better, a lot smoother. My cough is all but gone. And as soon as I say that, it's going to return in all its hideous glory. And it's going to become very embarrassing here for me. But hopefully that doesn't happen. My vocal cords, they be hydrated. I'm feeling good. I look amazing. And I'm going to tell you something, man. It's been a big week for pro wrestling. And one major event that happened recently that is nothing to smile about. We're going to get into it here today. So can't wait to get your comments on that. If you read the subject of today's show, then you know exactly what it is we're going to talk about. But before we start saying hellos to everybody here in the audience and getting started on our show here today, let's bring on my guest. You know him from this show, and you also know him from other stuff as well, including that website. And we'll put him on the spot here today, live on the air, and ask him, dude, what's going on with that website? Everybody, please welcome back to the show, Mr. Chris Patton. What's up, my friend?
Nothing much, man. Living life. How about you? Every time I talk to you, you're either sick or getting over being sick. So maybe it's me.
I think it's you, honestly. Pretty sure. So look, thanks for hanging out with us again, man. I appreciate it very much. Let me ask you this, like what is happening with is it still the Patton report or did you change it?
It's the Patton report and the website is still being built. That's what happens when you do it all yourself, I guess. So I'm working through it. We got really busy at work. We had a merger and some other things happen that I was not expecting. So it pushed it back a little bit, but I got 2 episodes in the can that'll come out with the website. So one is about Pokemon Red, Yellow, and Blue, and the other one is about Metal Gear Solid. So if you like video games, those are the first 2 episodes.
Awesome. Well, you know who to call when you need some pop culture / pro wrestling stuff.
Right.
So,
there'll be a bit of that as well. I kind of went a different path. I'm doing some more video and trying to edit in some actual game clips and things of that nature.
Awesome.
So it's kind of a new thing for me altogether, other than just talking about wrestling or movies.
It is so time consuming. You know this. Who am I telling? You already know. It is so, like, I started a new YouTube show and it's just YouTube. It's not on the podcast platforms. It's called Tom Clark Reviews. And I'm not even adding video. I'm just adding pictures. and an 11-minute video literally takes me all day. It is insane.
Yeah, the first 2 videos I think took me, and granted, I haven't done any video editing since like Windows Movie Studio, so that was a whole new learning curve for me. But yeah, when you add in having a normal job, you just got to fit it in when you can, because it's more of a love project more than anything else for me.
I totally get it. Yeah, it's a content creation. Kids can be a cruel mistress. We love it. It doesn't always love us back, and it's not always there for us, but we do the best we can with it. So before we go any farther here, kids, let's say some hellos. What's up, Josh? Good to see you. JP, appreciate you sharing the show. Fernando, good to see you, my friend. Ray All Day is back again. Yep, definitely going to be talking about Sabu here today, kids. We teased it in the intro. Fernando, thank you for checking out my video. Fernando was awesome because he subscribed to my channel on YouTube, and he liked my recent video, Tom Clark Reviews. As I say, it's the brand new YouTube show, only available, well, on YouTube. That's why it's only a YouTube show. And there's 2 episodes in the can. And it's basically just me with some pictures. The first one was a Righteous Gemstones finale, and the newest one is the Thunderbolts end credit scene. By the way, Thunderbolts, really good flick. So I highly endorse it. We're going to be reviewing the show. Actually, Phil and I have already reviewed it. We're going to release it on the 6th this coming Tuesday on the 20th. So there you go. JP says, hello, Chris. There you go. Good to see you, my friend. As people continue to come in here today, kids, if you will, as I said before, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you to please smash the like button and share the show wherever you can. And when we take a break here today, I'll tell you a little bit more about some other stuff we got going on. Chris, before we go any farther and before we tackle any other stories or whatever else is going on in the world today of pro wrestling anyway, let's talk about this big loss for the world of professional wrestling. Sabu, you know, I think sometimes we use words like and phrases like one of a kind, and it doesn't mean anything. Dude, Sabu was people who came after him. It's kind of hard to think of Sabu. He's one of a kind. Yeah, but a lot of people did stuff he did afterward. But until he came along, who did the combination of things that Sabu did, at least here in the States? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he came along too soon, almost. Like he came too early to some extent. It's kind of crazy to think about it that way. You could maybe compare him to Justin Thunder Liger in that way a little bit. 2 completely different wrestlers, but other wrestlers took their style and ran with it, and it changed kind of every company they worked for in one way or another. So looking at Sabu, you know, if Sabu's not Sabu, what does ECW look like realistically, you know? So, and everyone that you see doing hardcore stuff now, kind of, they'll give you the list. It's going to be like your Cactus Jacks, your Sabus, your, you know, Anitas, all of those cats. And Sabu, the one thing that has always made him one of my favorites is the relationship with Terry Funk and their feud, getting Terry Funk back to the top of his game, kind of when everyone thought Terry was done, to be honest. And I'm sure we'll get more into that here in a bit, but yeah, absolute legend. One of my favorites. First time I ever saw him wrestle was actually against Mr. JL as a Monday Nitro watcher as a young kid. You got to remember I was born in 88, so that would have been 95. I was 7 the first time I saw Sabu. And then you start seeing him pop up in wrestling, like Pro Wrestling Illustrated. For people like me that was huge nerds, really loved wrestling. You'd go. They used to be these gimmicks called newsstands, Tom. And you'd go there and you would buy magazines, and they had pictures of wrestlers in them. And as a kid, I loved those. And then there was this flea market called Pendergrass Flea Market. I've talked about it on the show before. So as I got more into Sabu, I kind of learned about ECW, because ECW in Georgia came on like Saturday at 2 a.m. or something, from what I remember on UPN or WB or
I think here was
channels.
Seems like here it was Friday nights at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, that's crazy. So as you are a kid and growing up watching the business and everything, when did you, like, as you learn more and more and more, as you grow, when did you become aware of this guy named the Sheik, who was actually his uncle? Like, when were you able to like, oh my God, wait a minute, he's his uncle? Do you know what I mean? It
probably would have been from some of the tapes as I got more into like middle school. where he was wrestling in Japan with Sheik, because it's more talked about in that, and any kind of interview you would get with Sabu later on, like shoot interviews and stuff, he kind of went into more detail, but they would reference that he was the nephew of the Sheik in those in some of those videos and stuff. The ones you would get that would have like overdubs, for instance, for commentary. I don't know how many of those you had back in the day, but there used to be compilations from FTW and other promotions in Japan where you'd get like also bootleg commentary kind of along with it, or dubs, or weird subtitling and stuff. So kind of probably through osmosis through that, because I don't remember them talking about it very much in ECW. I'm sure they probably did. I haven't went back and had a full rewatch of all the ECW like weekly episodic shows, because some of them are just terrible. I think a lot of people look at 90s wrestling with rose-colored glasses on a week-to-week basis with those shows, but if you go back and watch like a full year of Nitro or Raw, there's a lot of it that you could probably skip.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's fair. So I can't tell you I've really gone down the rabbit hole too much on the original Sheik, but I know enough to be dangerous. So, you know, it's hard to say, because he passed in 2003, and he debuted, let's see, in 47. He debuted in 47. What? And retired 95. So I was aware of the name, didn't have a lot of content, because he didn't really, you know, he was in the WWF, of course, when Vince Sr. owned it. So a little bit before my time, and I'm a teenager in my early 20s when he retired. So, but I don't know. And there's guys much older than me who would say, Tom, you're out of your mind. Do you think that Sabu, I don't know if eclipsed is the right word, don't know if that's even appropriate now, but do you think that he may be matched in some terms, at least for his generation of the Sheik's legacy? Or do you think that's apples and oranges, really?
Well, not money-wise. So, I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it. If you're talking about the business of making money, I don't think Sabu ever got paid what he was actually worth. I think there were like the highest he ever got paid in his autobiography. He said the highest he ever got paid was the 1 year he worked for WWE, which was $400,000. And the Sheik was making huge money in Michigan as both a promoter and a draw in the various territories near there. That's part of the reason I don't know too much about the Sheik, is because the kind of stuff I was watching would have been more Southern wrestling, even in the tape trading days, outside of like your Japanese stuff or ECW tapes. But yeah, that stuff I've seen now as an adult, but growing up, like I probably couldn't have told you much about Sheik at all until I started, as I got older, reading books and like, different things about the territory days and stuff. You hear more. But yeah, it's kind of as far as like who had the bigger career, I would say Sheik, right? Because he was such a huge draw in the days of the territory, but you're also kind of comparing apples to oranges once you get to, mid 80s, 90s wrestling.
Yeah. It's hard to disagree with that. Robbie says Sabu was an innovator when it came to high flying wrestling, as one of many who made ECW legendary company. Can't disagree with that at all. I mean, and some of this, Chris, is Heyman. It's Heyman's work, like the homicidal, suicidal, genocidal. What a great tagline. No one's really lived up to that since then. And Heyman had a way to really promote his guys. So Sabu, not known as a legendary talker, of course, he was more of a, let his actions speak for him. But I think a combination of him and Heyman, and like them putting him in a straitjacket when they first brought him in, supposedly Sabu hated that, but Paul was real big on it, and it worked. Like, it got him over the idea that he was uncontrollable and a little bit out of his mind. Then you saw him work, you're like, yep, I think he's a little bit out of his mind.
Yeah, the gimmick worked perfectly, especially with Paul as a manager, which I think it was the last person Paul managed as Paul E. Dangerously. If you want to make a big throwback to the early days of ECW. But yeah, that gimmick worked perfectly. I mean, Sabu already has a very unique look, which I think is part of the mystique about the character, right? The fact that he never talks, he has this unique look. But then you put the man in this Hannibal Lecter get up, have him wheeled down to the ring by 911 while Paul is yelling, homicidal, suicidal, genocidal maniac. Yeah. It's great. it was definitely very different than what you were seeing on either WCW, Smoky Mountain, or WWF. That trickled down since he's the first guy to get the huge push in ECW really after Shane Douglas, and Paul put a lot of focus in on that. And I think that everything that Sabu did trickled down to the rest of ECW, where you get Public Enemy doing more table spots, and even the Dudleys, where the table is almost it's like Sabu and the table's a tag team, and a lot of and then those tag teams are like Fabulous Freebirds, where one of their tag partners is a table as well. I think I heard Jim Cornette say that the table was more over than either of the Dudleys as far as an act.
Well, I don't laugh too much at stuff Jim says these days, but that's not a bad line. If I'm being honest.
If you think about the pop with those in particular, the difference is Sabu's not going to do one table; he's going to do 15 tables, and then if he loses, he's going to put himself through a table.
Yeah,
which is just crazy. But the things that he did, the innovation. I don't know that the first time I saw Sabu do the triple jump moonsault, I'd never seen anyone else do that. I'm not going to say it wasn't ever done. This is the first time I ever saw it. And it's still one of the coolest. When he hits it correctly and doesn't slip on the ropes, it looks incredible. It's still crazy. And then him and Terry Funk both with the chair throws. I think Terry's the other person that really kind of innovated that. But instead of hitting someone with a chair, just lawn darting them at them. Was always a fun spot for me. But yeah, huge innovator. And it shows like a lot. You get a lot of wrestlers that have imitated the style. I think the big difference is the overall mystique of Sabu. Until shoot interviews and stuff, there wasn't a whole lot out there about him.
Yeah, and a couple of guys in the chat have already mentioned being drunk and drugs and stuff. Look, I'm not here to indict the man. We're not necessarily here to eulogize him either, but I'm definitely not here to judge him. Whatever he was doing or dealing with outside of the ring or whatever you want to call it, that's not really my business, and I'm not really going to comment on it.
I will speak on it a little bit because I will say that for Sabu to do any kind of wrestling right now, he's going to be on would have been on some sort of painkiller simply because he had a hip replacement. When we were still doing Wrestling Geeks Alliance, which was, I think, like 4 or 5 years ago. So it wasn't that far removed where he had already came out and said he was never wrestling again. So for him to have a match, I'm assuming that there would have been a lot of things that would have to put his body in a state to go out there and try to have a match. So when we get into Joey Janela and GCW, I guess we could talk about it a bit more. But Sabu's been open about having various addiction problems there and had gotten cleaned up, and I believe was just weed for a while, him and RVD, and he was living in Las Vegas. We had tried to set up an interview with him at one point for Wrestling Geeks Alliance, and it fell through. So that's unfortunate because that would have been a really fun interview.
Yeah. That would have been good to hear. Yeah. Here's what I'll say about him is that the thing that always got me about Sabu was how fast he was. And we'll see matches where you can tell that they set up a chair or they perch on top and you can see them processing the distance. Like, okay, I think I can, he's got to come forward to catch me. And there's this much between me and the table. I wonder if you can see them kind of walking it through as they work. But when Sabu would set that chair up, dude, the second the legs hit the mat, he ran jumped off the chair over the rope. And it was that quick. And every time he did it, took my breath away. I'm like, how do you the second that the 4 legs of the chair touch the mat, he's gone, runs over the top rope. And it always, we see Mark Briscoe, he'll put the chair and then he'll stop. He'll look at the crowd. He'll wait. He'll let it build up. But I'm always like, man, what if you don't hit it? What if you slip? What if you kill yourself? No fear. To me, when I looked at Sabu, I thought this man's got no fear. I don't know how. He's got no fear, dude.
I think there's something to be said about that not necessarily being the right way to do it either, though.
Sure.
For the longevity of your career.
Absolutely.
the one, even when you take away like the dives and things like that, when you're talking about sheer speed, the one thing that a lot of wrestlers, modern wrestlers, and you'll see this a lot, they just don't hit the ropes as hard. So I think a lot of that is like the original guys, like him growing up being trained by the Sheik, and Austin's talked about it a lot. A perfect example of someone who doesn't hit the ropes hard is like Jungle Boy, where everything kind of looks like it's going in slow motion. Where Sabu, he hits the ropes really hard and then overspeeds and then does the thing you're talking about, except for he's not really worried if anyone's there or not, because that wouldn't be, suicidal, genocidal, homicidal, death-defying maniac. So the character worked, right? So even when he messed something up, did he really mess it up, or was he putting one over on us, Tom?
Well, that's fair. And then when he would, the spot, I mean, because he stands on the top rope and he does this where you can see he's trying to get his bounce, and then he got his balance, and then he came off the rope. It's like one of the most famous spots I think I've ever seen from him. And I'm sure that happened more often than not, but it's the one on camera that I've seen quite a bit. Again, I just, in Marvel Comics, Daredevil's the man without fear. I just considered Sabu the man without fear. It looked like he just went and just 100 miles an hour all the time. When he worked Cena in Charlotte at Vengeance in 2006, I was at that show, and I was pumped to see Sabu because I'd never seen the guy live. And the crowd was, and I'm looking around thinking, it's okay if you don't like blood and guts, but none of y'all care that he's like, isn't it cool that John's not working Randy for the 27th time in a row? It's someone else. Can we at least cheer for the guy? And I kind of felt like I was on an island. And then Sabu runs, and of course John wins. It is what it is. And Sabu did the chair spot, and then he might have done two other things, and that was it. And I'm like, boy, this is a handcuffed Sabu. They're not letting him do any of the stuff that made him famous. Like, we kind of expect that, right, Chris? No matter who you are, when you get in that company, they're going to tone you down to what they want you to be.
Yeah, and I mean, he was never really Vince's style of guy anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Can't talk, really doesn't have that look that Vince would be looking for. You kind of get the opposite with Rob Van Dam, where you kind of have a similar thing, but it's more tame. It's something that Vince could work with and put into the WWE style. Whereas Sabu, especially from the time he did his tryout match, which would have been like 92, 93 with WWF versus by 2006, the Legend of Sabu coming off an XPW run. It's kind of a weird time period. And I mean, they were going to keep him around. There was still lots of stuff that they had planned for Sabu, but he's the one that gets popped with Rob Van Dam in the car while RVD's title holder. So who knows what that would have looked like. Maybe you would have gotten some kind of feud with RVD and Sabu entangled, down the road, because that run ends very shortly because of that arrest. And then RVD, I don't think ever holds the title again either. Because it just further justifies like Vince being like, see about these ECW guys.
Yeah.
And Vince,
we told you. Yeah. Fernando says you never saw Sabu live. Fernando, you got to remember the time period. It was 2006. There's no AEW. Sabu didn't work for TNA. ECW worked in New York and Philadelphia. I'm in North Carolina, brother. I mean, they weren't coming down here, and I wasn't flying to North Carolina in 2006. I'm sorry. I wasn't going to fly to New York in circa 2000 to see him work. So no, I didn't get to see him live until Charlotte against John Cena. Had you seen him live, I assume, Chris? Yeah, or have you already said?
Yeah, I had seen him. I'd seen him on some indie shows, as well as I saw one ECW show. But that being said, ECW, like Tom was just saying, it would have been really hard, anyone in Carolina or Georgia, to see ECW outside of maybe right after Barely Legal. I think they did some actual tours that hit the South, but they didn't come to the South that often.
No, they didn't.
So unless you caught him on like a spot, unless you caught him on an indie spot show or something, which there wouldn't have been many. I can't think of many companies running out of Georgia at that time period where I would have had a chance. I happened to get to see him later on in like the 2000s before the WWE run, and then I had seen him. I think it was like maybe like a year or two before ECW ended. I was still fairly young the first time I saw him.
That NWA promotion you used to have in Georgia, what'd they call it?
Oh God.
You know what I'm talking about. It was around for a while. It was not
Yeah,
a
it's
bad
the one.
little show.
It was the one where they had Gunner and
Yes.
some of the TNA guys come out of it. Colt Cabana was the champion there for a little bit. I can't remember the name of it.
Remember.
Off the top of my head.
Unless they brought Sabu in, you wouldn't have had an opportunity. Because
that's probably where I would have seen him at, is one of those shows, would be my guess, at least in the 2000s, because it would have been the time like Gunner and Colt Cabana were popping in and out of there.
Because Apollo Crews came out of that territory, didn't he?
Yeah, my wife actually went to private school. She went to Bernal, which is a girls' academy, with Apollo Crews' sister. So yeah, he came from that area. He was wrestling then before he got to NXT and everything. So she actually kind of knows him on a personal level.
Oh, that's cool. I can't remember what they called him. Don't tell me. I don't want to look it up. He had a great name. I can't remember what it was. It was much better than Apollo Crews, I'll tell you.
Apollo Crews is a terrible but WWE does that sometimes. Like they just like,
The women on their NXT brand have some of the worst freaking names I've ever heard. Like I don't know. They just got like that WWE name generator where I just want to envision it's like the big the evil, the mad scientist like computer with the big like slot machine lever on the side. It rolls names, you know what I mean? That's what I envision. It's got like alarms and stuff. There's smoke coming out the back.
Yeah, it's just one of those random name generators where you put in your birth date and like a color you like, and it spits out something. I know that like Xavier Woods was pretty mad when he got the name Apollo, because he had tried to do Apollo coming off like Lethal Consequences Creed or whatever, because he has like a big thing for Apollo Creed. So I remember that being pretty funny, reading about that. And yes, Jeffrey, I agree with you. WWE did water down ECW, but they shifted what they were going to do in general, because they kind of tried to do that triple angle with WCW and ECW, and it just didn't work. And then they relaunched it as a brand for sci-fi, which is kind of what NXT. That's kind of what that's what they're doing with. So like, if you think about NXT, what they're doing with ECW, it was kind of their version of NXT before that. So like the stars they had on there were all like indie guys for the most part, unless they sent Big Show over there because he got fat. Because you're talking about like your John Morrisons and CM Punks of the world that were on the ECW branded show, which is it was pretty much their developmental show, whether people like to admit that or not.
Yeah, and they sent Showdown a couple of times because of his weight. Yeah, I have no idea. That's going to make me nuts until I'm looking it up, but I can't find. I want to call it Rampage, NWA Ramp. That wasn't it.
I can find out. I have a shirt from Legends of Wrestling Con here from 2012 where they ran the actual wrestling event. So I can definitely tell you after this. But yeah, I don't remember right offhand.
Yeah, that's making me crazy. Dragon's Gate is based out of Japan. I want to call it NWA Rampage, but that's not it. Something like that. Anyway,
NWA is kind of weird too, because at that point no one really owned the NWA license, but they were using the name up until Billy Corgan bought the actual NWA naming rights. So you got like NWA Wild Style, and like there was a bunch of NWAs that weren't actually NWA.
Yeah. I think it was Wild Style. Wasn't that the Georgia promotion?
That might have been it. It would have been wherever AJ Styles worked before TNA, and they did the merger with TNA because they merged didn't they merge the Tennessee and Georgia stuff together?
Yeah. Did you know there was an NWA Wild West? What? No. NWA Wisconsin?
I was going to say, was that the California had one too during that time period.
There was a West Coast Wrestling Connection. I'm just looking at all the former territories, in the 80s and then recently.
Yeah, and when you get to recently is where it's going to get weird, because there's unofficial NWA and then official NWA.
Yeah.
which funny enough, that kind of all stems from Todd Gordon and Paul Heyman and just right back to ECW, brother.
It does, yeah. Fernando says Sabu had clashes with Rey Mysterio and ECW. You know, we all know Sabu would come out and he would do the thing for his uncle, you know, pointing up to the sky. And, you know, we know that Brian Cage is continuing. Help me out here. Who better than well, he's still doing the Chris Canyon's taunt. Who better than Cage? Yeah. So I wonder if anyone's going to take up the point. Like if, you know, the guys that he ran with are older. You know what I mean? Like who would take it up that's a younger guy now, you think?
I hope no one does. Like, I don't know. That's like a legendary silhouette kind of thing.
That's fair. Yeah.
Anyone should do it.
Jeff,
like you're right.
Keeping it alive.
Jeff's got it. It's wild. It's Wild Side. That's what it was.
Thank you, Jeff.
I knew it was something to that effect. I couldn't.
Man, Jeff done saved the day. Jeff gets a cookie, everybody. Well, we've got a few other things to get to. In the same breath as Sabu, if anybody's keeping up, Sabu's last match was against Janela, and it was at this show, and it was 2 weeks ago now.
It was WrestleMania weekend, so whenever WrestleMania was, that's April.
Yeah, it was at GCW, and you know,
Easter weekend.
Yeah,
so it would have been Easter weekend because WrestleMania fell on Easter this year, which was kind of weird. And
I'm not a Jim Cornette guy. Always will have mad respect for what he accomplished, but the stuff that he spouts off, you know, I talked about this off mic. I just don't care for it. So some of it's just so incredibly negative. But like, and so I want to preface what I'm going to say with that because I'm not exactly, you know, eye to eye with everything he says. I've never been a Janela guy. Now, to be fair, never seen Janela work live, but it just, whenever I see this guy, I just, no disrespect, he's never done anything for me, and that's fine. Some people like certain guys and gals in the ring, other people don't. But Chris, I've never, you know, and I don't know why I'm telling you all this. I guess I'm just putting it out there. But he has gone on the defensive because some wacky people out there claiming he should be arrested for manslaughter. GCW's owner, Brett Lauderdale's come out, issued this huge statement that no one forced Sabu to work this match. And then Janela came out and told the entire story, Chris, of the night that they worked that match. And here's what I'll tell you. First of all, before we get to that, do you have a take on all this? Not in terms of he's guilty, nothing like that. But what do you think about all this back and forth between GCW and the fans right now?
I mean, what I would say about both Joey Janela and the owner of GCW is like, stop talking. Like,
yes.
Yeah. Even if you have a situation like that where you know a guy is not 100%, maybe shouldn't be in the ring, and you're doing what you can to get him out there, probably don't fucking talk about it afterwards, especially right at, like, you know, probably not the best idea. It makes you look very Bush League, which, you know, GCW kind of, I mean, they are an indie promotion, but at the same time, you don't want to look like a bunch of goofs. And that's how it comes off to me, regardless. Like, Sabu, as far as I know, passed away of a heart attack, so that could be a billion different things. I doubt it had anything to do with that match at all. But it's kind of poor timing as well, and then them doubling down or Joey Janela doubling down and going after people on Twitter or whatever is just not. It's not a good look. But whatever, not my company. Run it how you want, brother.
You took it away from me, but that was the only point I was going to make, is that one of my best friends is an attorney, and I met him online, and we chatted and texted, and then the first time I ever shook his hand physically, he's going in to shake my hand. He's handing me a card. He says, "You ever get pulled over, if you ever get in trouble, don't talk to anybody. Call me first." And I'm like, I don't know what GCW has or doesn't have, but Chris, to your point, stop effing talking. Like, who is telling them it's okay to release these statements? The less you say, the better. Not that they've done anything wrong, but brother, if, let's say, I don't know, but let's say Sabu's family, one of them, several of them, I don't know, decides to bring a suit. Everything these two guys have said can now be dissected by their attorneys and used against them. As you know, like you said, I don't get that either. Why are they still talking?
I mean, even if you take the lawsuit part away from it, like, do you really want, if you're a wrestler, right? Do you want to go work for them now that you know that they're just going to send someone out there that you might have to work with? It's not. You're going backwards in time. Like, you're going backwards to the ECW days where you might not necessarily want to wrestle Sandman that night, depending on how drunk he or high he is. Like, do we really want to go back there as a society? I don't know. I mean,
that's fair. Yeah. Why even do it at all? Just something very, very, very short and very simple to the point with their lawyer's approval could have been said, where Lardell could have said, this is a terrible tragedy. I feel so bad for his family. You know, it was an honor to have him here, you know, whatever. And then just be done. But this constant back and forth is really not helping anybody.
I mean, I feel kind of bad for the whole situation of Sabu even doing the match, if we want to talk about it that way, because he was not too thrilled to work with GCW, going as far to no-show their induction of him into their own Hall of Fame the previous year. So I'm assuming that Sabu needed money, which is why he was doing this. I can't, you know, if he was going to do a retirement match, I don't know that GCW would be the first place for it, especially for a guy who no-showed his own Hall of Fame. Induction by that company. That being said, the match itself is fine. I'm not as down on Joey Janela. I think Joey Janela, when he's not just strictly doing hardcore crap, is a decent in-ring wrestler. This is kind of a goof move for that entire company to come out and just talk about this in a time where it's not really relevant. Because like I said, I doubt the match really had anything to do with the passing of Sabu.
No,
I think him taking the booking may have meant that there was something else going on in which he may have needed money, but that's speculation.
Yeah, and supposedly he was taking an opiate to get off opiates, and I forget what it's called, but supposedly it's prescribed. It's well known. It's not illegal, and you know, I'm not going to say again. I'm not going to sit here and speak to that, but
well, the whole statement was that they sent someone out to go buy like a legal version.
Yeah.
Of opioid, which I don't have the name of, because the whole entire thing to me is just kind of disgusting. It's in some way it's the GCW. It almost feels like the controversy creates cash mentality of let's offend a bunch of people so people will talk about us. And I wouldn't put that past GCW. It is a very messy situation. I agree.
Kratom, that's what it's called. Kratom. Kids, before we go any farther with the rest of the show here, if you guys will, do me a favor and watch this.
Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com.
BoinkStudios.com, kids, if you will, go visit the site. I would very much appreciate it. And I'm going to drop something in the chat right now. This is something that I've not really ever, I kind of teased it a couple weeks ago. Real quick before we move on. As you guys know, none of my stuff is behind a paywall. I've never done that. I really don't have any intentions of doing it. Would I do it one day for special bonus content? Maybe. We'll see. But here's what I tell you, kids, and Chris can vouch for this. Doing podcasts are not cheap, and they're very time consuming. And while we love doing them, and I don't want to put anything behind a paywall, I am putting a link out there right now. This is buymeacoffee.com, and it's my page. And listen, anybody watching now or after the fact, you want to throw a couple bucks, help me get a cup of coffee, I would appreciate it. You're under no obligation. Nobody gets penalized. Nobody gets called out. But if you do donate to that page, I'll do a little something for you here on the show. Again, can't do anything. It is what it is. Just thought I'd throw it out there. There's no small and there's no big. It is what it is. Coffee's gone up, and your boy loves coffee. That's all I'll tell you. So thanks as always, kids, for hanging out. And look, by the way, I'm going to keep creating this. But again, as Chris can probably testify, at some point you start looking at, man, how much does it cost to, for the server, and how much is a new mic and oh my God. So yeah,
it's definitely a labor of love. So any little bit helps for sure.
Any little bit helps for sure. Yeah. But I'm going to have that link on all my socials, folks. So Again, if you would take a look, if you're so inclined, I would appreciate it. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. All right, let's talk about.
Before we jump into that, I do want to hit a few comments on this. There was the Sabu put Taz over. That is the perfect correlation with Paul Heyman, because Paul Heyman was already booking Taz as a monster in that company, and Sabu had left to go do a New Japan date, and kind of Paul had buried him to turn him heel. So when he comes back, you get a weird period there with Sabu. And then as Taz is being built, you get this awesome ECW moment where the lights go out, and then it's just Taz standing there cross-armed after beating some dude up, staring straight at Sabu. It's perfect. It's a great moment.
Great.
I wouldn't say that Sabu did put Taz over. I wouldn't say there was no Taz without Sabu, because Paul was already headed down that road. What I will say about Sabu and Taz is they didn't have great chemistry in the ring. So if you go back and watch those matches, they're not necessarily the best of either Sabu or Taz. They just kind of have clashing styles in the way that they like to do things. But the whole Bill Alfonso stuff with Sabu and Rob Van Dam and Taz is a great period of ECW. It's fun to go back and watch. And my favorite is definitely going to be any of the matches with Sabu and Terry Funk. And I think, Terry Funk has openly said that he owes a lot to Sabu for putting him over in a time where he really shouldn't have been, kind of giving him a second breath of life in the wrestling business. So if Terry Funk will give you that praise, then you're up there pretty high on my list. Even if you already were, you're even higher. So,
I can't disagree with that. Yeah. Can we say, Chris, that Sabu didn't make Taz, but did Sabu make Taz better because Taz had somebody that was never backed down, was crazy, that when you saw them on the marquee, you're like, I got to see this match.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I would say Paul booked that to perfection. Because the way Sabu comes back with the lights going off, coming back on, the fans immediately lose their mind for Sabu, and you have the perfect foil to this madman in Taz. But it's a great ECW moment. For those who haven't seen it, even if you don't watch their matches, that moment in particular is huge.
It's fantastic.
It is definitely a very well tape traded moment back in the day.
Yeah. Maria, not to get too deep in the weeds, but the idea of, for a drug addict, depending on I can't believe we're talking about this, what he or she is taking, cold turkey can be a deadly situation, honestly. And some people can't do that because it could kill them. So these drugs are meant to wean them off little by little by little, to hopefully to the point where they can let go altogether. But the stuff rewires your body, it rewires your brain. This not to soapbox. This notion that people should just stop. People have no idea what they're talking about. They have no clue. And if it's okay that you're ignorant, not you, Maria, it's okay that people are ignorant. But if people are ignorant, they shouldn't comment on things because they really don't know what they're talking about.
There's a reason why methadone clinics and things exist, because people that are trying to get off drugs, you can't just especially something like heroin, you can't just stop cold turkey. It can actually kill you. So you end up in situations like that. Now, the kratom that they were talking about with GCW, that doesn't have anything to do with that. It sounds like they were just trying to get Sabu to a place physically where he could get through a match.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. Once again, why even come out and talk about that? It makes you look like a shitty company, bad company. Sorry.
Yes.
I caught myself.
Well, again, it's again, as we said, there's plenty of reasons to stop talking, to never talk. I mean, the comment from GCW should have been no comment. That's it. It's not about circling the wagons and protecting. We got to protect each other no, it's not that. It's just, also, you're talking about this guy who's gone. Let's let him rest. I mean, it didn't happen, Chris. He didn't pass the day after the match, for goodness sake.
No, hopefully they wouldn't have said anything then, because there definitely would have been some sort of investigation. The last match is kind of, it's unfortunate, but it also shows who Sabu is. So if you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. He's doing things that you wouldn't expect him to do. And unfortunately, the ropes break in one spot. He's hitting. I don't know. Some people are saying the ring was set up was poorly. I could also believe that Sabu thought it'd be a fun spot. Joey Janela sold that as like, no, I legitimately thought he was knocked out, whether that was kayfabe or not. It shows the performer Sabu is because he got up and finished the match in typical Sabu fashion. It's just unfortunate that's like the last. I can't tell you the last match I would have seen of Sabu's before then. It probably would have been something in JCW. It's been a long time since I saw him perform. I mean, outside of that AEW thing, which I don't really consider a match.
Ray, what link are you asking about? You're talking about Taz and Sabu? Is that what you're asking about?
He may be talking about your coffee link.
It's in the chat, kids. Look in the chat. Actually, it's shared by the Wrestling Rumors account. By the way, it is buymeacoffee.com/Tom Clark. Because that's me. You know what? This was the thing I was asking Chris. Was it too spammy? There you go. There you go. Not so spammy now. I mean, I was honest.
We already talked about it for 5 minutes now, so it's less spammy.
Now it's fine. Now it's not spammy at all. I'm not asking for your credit card number.
I will say all of that money goes to Tom and not me. So if you dislike me, it's going to Tom.
It's going to essential vitamins and growth formula to get that beard back out. That beard is gone. Holy Lord.
That's what happens when you try to trim and your hand's a little unsteady. It's not a good look.
I've lost my entire beard like that before. Like doing this and went, oh, well, screw it. And then just get rid of the whole thing because I got the life out of it, you know?
Ray, if I was mistaken and you were talking about any of the Sabu things I was talking about, I'll shoot you a message. We're friends on Facebook. I'll shoot you a message.
It's definitely worth watching. JP says Peacock has a tribute strand of shows on their streaming and also have all the old wrestling shows you were asking about. Oh, awesome. Yeah, it's on the Peacock. There you go. Kids, we're coming up close on the top of the hour. Actually, we're almost there. So, we're going to talk primarily about Sabu today and everything going on. I did want to mention Jim Ross publicly revealed that he's been diagnosed with colon cancer. All the best to Jim Ross. Jim's overcome a heck of a lot in his life. And no matter what anybody feels about anybody else, I personally think that Jim's been one of the most stand-up guys that we've seen in this business in a long, long time. It just never felt like he was working you. And if he thought something was BS, he'd say it. Cranky Jim Ross on commentary in the past 5 years has been awesome to listen to because that dude's got no filter. I don't care. What are you doing that move for? It's stupid. I like that. I like that he calls guys out because, I'm not going to listen to Jim. All right, well, then you do so at your own peril. Jim is so incredibly smart about this business, Chris. Like, you'd be crazy not to listen to this guy.
I think fans get mad when he does that because then they can't go on Reddit and say the same thing.
There you go. He steals it.
I kid. Well wishes to Jim Ross. He has been through a lot since his wife passed away. Has been through a lot health-wise. And, a voice of a generation like Jim Ross.
Yeah.
I know he's not everyone's greatest announcer of all time, but he's definitely up there for me.
Yeah, he remember when they were putting AEW together and they were doing these interviews and they interviewed Cody and they asked Cody, why Jim Ross? And he says, why Jim Ross? He said, because he's effing Jim Ross. Yeah. And then they cut it and I was like, that is freaking beautiful. That's all you need to know.
Now for people headed into AEW, that you have a lot of New Japan crossover. So there was already some people not so high on Jim Ross with the start of AEW. So there was a lot of that coming over as well. Now, what I will say about a lot of Jim Ross's commentary for New Japan is it was post-recorded, which kind of is its own weird thing. But yeah, Jim Ross is an absolute legend. I think they, if they would have used him more sparingly, I don't think people would have been as hard on him as they have been in recent years. I think WWE actually did a good job with that towards the end of Jim Ross's run there, is using him for big moment matches like your Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker type match. Because it actually adds something to it. And AEW kind of started doing that, but they didn't decide what they wanted to do right off the bat, and then people kind of soured on Jim. But yeah, well wishes to Jim Ross. Like I said, one of, if not the greatest announcer of all time. It just depends, I guess, on what generation you're from.
Yeah, for me, it was always Gordon Soley, and then it kind of became Bob. I love Bob Caudle. I freaking love Bob. But no, Jim has got to be the man. I just don't. I don't know who else.
Jim definitely has the biggest moments for the most watched things. Because if you go like throughout the history of WWE, when they were doing like 9-10 million viewers, Jim Ross is the voice there. So,
and when the AEW started, so many people asked him, like, would you call my match? Like, specifically asking him, would you please call my? I'd be honored if you call my match. Like, that's a big deal, man. You know.
I guess outside of him, my favorite would be Bobby Heenan, but he's more of a color commentator than, but that's I watched a lot of WCW.
Yeah. I was never, but it's going to cause people to do some serious head shaking. Don't nobody pass out from the movement. I was never a big fan of Bobby on color commentary. Sorry. There were, for me, can't speak for anybody else. There were moments when I got took out of the match because he would say something goofy or whatever, and him and Gorilla, it kind of felt like, and look, some of those old WWE matches they were calling were terrible matches, especially when it was against guys you never heard of. So you kind of like, oh, they're funny together. But then other times I'm like, man, is this about them or is this about the match? But there again, Chris, that wasn't my commentary team growing up. They weren't my guys. You know what I mean? It was, David Crockett for better or worse, and Tony Schiavone, and then Bob Caudle and Tony Schiavone. It wasn't Gorilla and Bob the Brain Heenan.
I was thinking more Bobby and like Tony Schiavone for me.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I grew up mostly watching WCW until same time everyone else kind of made a switch, 97. Then we would start. We'd have me and my friend. We would record one or the other and then switch the next day after school. So but for sure they WCW. Bobby, but who has also passed away. So rest in peace. But Jim Ross, hopefully the surgery goes well. Wish him nothing but the best. He has been through it recently with that he just had that medical thing with the infection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like not that long ago. So yeah, well wishes to Jim Ross.
And I have both of his books on audio where he read both of them. And the second book where he talks about his wife, I saw him in an interview and he's like, I had to take several breaks that day. Just getting through it. It'll make you cry. It's hard to listen to.
And it was such a tragic, like out of nowhere event. So, and
for sure.
A lot of people have said Jim's not been the same since then, but I think he's done great work since then. I do miss just his podcast. I really enjoyed his podcast, especially when he would get guests on and stuff. A lot of those old podcast one things, which we don't even talk about that because that's like a whole other nightmare, but they had some good stuff with the Austin podcast and Piper and JR back in the day.
Did I tell you? I may have told you this, I was Austin's first guest on his first ever podcast.
No.
Yeah. He ran a beta just to run through like a test. And I say guest, I mean caller, but I happened to be on Twitter one day. This was several years ago. And he just, on his own account, threw up, we're running this beta test of a new podcast. Here's a phone number if anybody wants to call in. So I called. Within 2 minutes, got on with him. And I don't know if it was even ever recorded. Maybe it was. I don't know. But my question was, would you ever consider coming out of retirement to face Brock Lesnar? It was the only thing I could come up with at the time. It was all I had. Because this was before he came back and did anything with Kevin or anybody like that. He had been retired for a long time. But it's weird how things work, man. But let's
Brock
see.
Lesnar, that was the one you came up with?
It's all I had because I was writing for Bleacher at the time, and that was one of the things that, like, if you could book Steve Austin, because
he took his ball and went home. I get it, but
at the time it made a lot of sense.
Yeah,
because it really wasn't John Cena. Who cares? Like, but him and Brock could have made money, and he knew it too. He knew it when they, and how this goes. When they told him, you're working Brock tonight, he's like, I'm not doing it. We didn't even advertise this. We're not going to put this on a pay-per-view. We're not going to make some money off this. What are we doing? Like,
I think he came back and said he was also protecting his spot a little bit.
Sure, and nothing wrong with that.
But, because they definitely would have wanted Brock to go over, I'm assuming.
Crazy. But JP says AW Production have have got to get yelled at for the first 15 minutes of Dynamite, and Excalibur kept stumbling over his words. I'm going to be honest with you, man. That company on their production and their commentary at any given moment, I'm listening to their commentary, Chris. I'm like, Taz, could you maybe for 90 seconds, don't put yourself over for 90 seconds? And it's constantly. It's so much. It's so bad for me anyway that I'm like, you got to keep reminding us. He's reminding us 1,000 times he's broke his neck, all due respect. And then he has to remind us 1,000 times he's been in the ring. And then he'll throw comments to the other guys. Well, I've been in the ring. I'm like, we get it. Let's move on.
I mean, I think Taz is kind of phoning it in, if I'm being honest, at this point. But all that being said, AEW's been littered with production issues their entire run. What they should do is go the route of don't go the route of WWE to the point of making it look so polished, but they should go out and look at someone who used to run production for Monday Night Football or the Olympics or something and tidy that thing up from the ground up, because they have consistently had these issues. This is not a new thing. And if you watch it on actual cable, if you're not watching the streamed version they have where there's commercials, it's even, it can be even worse. But yeah, that's been a constant. When they first started and I was still doing a weekly podcast, there was at least one or two items a week where we would talk about production and production issues within that company. And they've had what is this year? Is this year 4? Year 4?
Year 5.
Year 5. Okay. So this is year 5 and they haven't cleaned that up.
I think wasn't 2019. 2019 was the first pay-per-view, and then 2020 was the company, I think. Maybe it has. Yeah, it's 5. Yeah.
So my point being is they've had 5 years to figure it out. It's time to maybe – I know that they hired a lot of people from the olden days of wrestling production. Maybe it's time to shake things up a bit, as Vince would say during the draft.
Dude, they've missed spots, as you know. They miss moves. They'll miss moments in the ring. Like the camera will suddenly cut to the crowd, and you're like, what just happened? I know what just happened. They're not on their game. They'll cut to the wrong camera, and you can tell the cameraman's walking around the ring, so you get a sideways view, and you're like, that dude's not even supposed to be on camera, right? It happens all the time.
And some of it's with TNT. Like there was the famous one, or the funniest one was the Ethan Page spot where it cut in audio from a basketball game. So he's having his debut match, and it's defense.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I don't know what they can do to clean that up. I would start by maybe clearing house and hiring a whole new staff, maybe people that have never done wrestling before. I know a lot of people are like, well, you need people that have done wrestling before. And I'm like, not really. I mean, I've seen really great wrestling that was recorded with one camera. So yeah, I think, simplify it first and then build something a little bit more polished. But yeah, they have.
I agree with that. Well, kids, let's open the floor up. A few minutes left here, and we will get to it. I'm going to go ahead and take Fernando's comment. What's your favorite Jim Ross commentary performance? Do you have one? I got one. I'll give you a second.
I guess by God, he's broken in half.
That's it. Mankind and Undertaker. For me, that's it.
But outside of that, maybe the time Stone Cold stunnered the entire roster, just all of his commentary there. That was pretty good.
Yeah, for me, that's my God, he's been broken in half. Yeah.
Which, that's easy to sell because it looked like Mankind was dead.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Back in the day, I'd watch the Monday Night Wars with me and several friends of mine, and we watched that live. And there's 6 of us in the room, and I think all 6 of us said he's dead. That's it. It's over, because he didn't move for a while. And then he gets off that stretcher. I'm like, what am I watching? This is like in a horror movie when the bad guy just gets up. Jason gets up, and he's got a machete in his head, and he just keeps getting back up. What am I watching? Mick Foley was one of a kind, man. I
just like Terry calling the audible because he knows that Mick needs more time.
Yes.
Oh, that's that's a hard match to watch back, knowing everything about Mick that we know now and all the issues he's had. But it is legendary and great commentary by JR for sure.
Yeah. Well, commentary can make or break a match. You know that. And that was on the matches that I've called over the years. I called some that weren't awesome, but you still have to sound excited. You have to sound pumped up. And it was, for me, I always took it like I'm a fan at home watching, and that's what I want to sound like. I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I need to know my moves, and I need to know the guys' names, of course, and their finishers. But, it wasn't about with every match, I'll give you a history lesson. No, it was just about, I didn't want to know. And like later on, as I went, when I was actually booking matches, I knew who was going over, and that sucked. Because like, I didn't want to know that because it ruined it for me. You know what I mean? So
that's why a lot of announcers even if they do know what the finish might be, they like seeing it live versus trying to do it in post recording, which is what a lot of people have done over the years for New Japan when that stuff comes to America on Access or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Ray says, Eric B and Rakim or House of Pain? I can't go House of Pain with that. Got to go with the Legends. In part 2, Nas or KRS-One. Got to go Nas. Adam Cole invited you to the grand opening of the Adam Cole Spawn, which you were entitled to a free massage, manicure, pedicure, or facial for yourself or someone in your family. What would you get, and who would use it? If he's offering it to me, I'm using it. Ain't nobody getting that but me. You kidding? I don't take care of myself. I could use a day. Later, wanted to get dinner, which included a tasty hamburger and some. So yeah, and crispy, tasty fries and a nice cold lemonade and 2 chocolate chip cookies. Ray, do not go with lemonade. Can we be straight? That does not mesh, but the answer is yes.
It kind of gives you that like flavor of like when you drink a Gatorade after brushing your teeth.
It totally does.
I agree with you on that one.
Terrible.
I hate to be the same, but Eric B and Rakim and then Nas, even though I do love KRS-One. There's a great KRS-One mixtape. I think I've talked about it on here before when KRS-One was brought up, called Breath of Fresh Air. It has Redman and Method Man on it as well. Go check that out. It's from like 2012.
Nice. The House of Pain stuff is weird because they had that little rivalry back and forth with like the Limp Bizkit thing and all that. And then, I don't know. White Guy Rap is the on the very bottom of my list of stuff I'm gonna be concerned about. So, this is me talking. Robbie says there are so many wrestlers whose children and even grandchildren followed in their footsteps by wrestling. For both of you, which wrestlers' children or grandchildren do you think really made their family name proud in wrestling? And who would you say just never should have followed in the family business? Good question. What do you think, Chris?
Both the Funk brothers. I think they did their father pretty proud.
Mm-hmm.
Cody's had a hell of a run.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of other ones. It's a good question. I mean, Charlotte Flair to some extent, right? I know a lot of people are down on her right now, but she was huge. I think she's still really, really good, especially if you compare her to the rest of the Flairs that have wrestled.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I would say Blackjack Mulligan's family's done very well. Mike Rotunda, Barry Windham, Bray Wyatt, Bo Dallas. Not a bad little lineage right there. That's pretty cool. Von Erichs are tough. I don't think their ending should define who they were, but unfortunately, Chris, I feel like the way they all checked out is how that family's defined, and that's a shame.
I can never decide if I actually like the Von Erichs, like even as a wrestling team, or that if I just really like the Fabulous Freebirds.
You were one or the other back in the day. I'm gonna tell you, you were one or the other.
I have respect for the Von Erichs, but I not necessarily my biggest cup of tea.
There's not a movie that can be made, Chris, that will capture the fever when those two teams, those two sides touched. It was the Rock and Roll versus Midnight. It was Dusty and Rick. They're selling out every single night because people cannot wait to see that match. You just can't recreate it, man. Can't recreate it at all. Crazy. Fernando says Avengers or X-Men. If we're talking movies at this point, I don't know. I'm anxious to see what the MCU does with an X-Men reboot because it's coming and it should come. It's time to go young. It's time to introduce a new team. It's time for, Hugh Jackman, who is a legend, just fantastic. It's time to hand it over. It's time for another Wolverine, a younger Wolverine. So I'm anxious to see what the MCU does with it.
I can't really speak on the movies that much, but if I'm going off I can speak on some of the movies, but I haven't kept up to date with it as much as Tom. But if I'm going off of things that I like better, X-Men. Even just as a concept, I like the X-Men better.
I love the X-Men. I do.
You get the whole. You get it ties into a lot more than just a comic. There's a lot of depth within the X-Men that I appreciate.
Mm-hmm. A lot of very intense psychological things and social issues, and yeah, for sure. Ultimo Dragon or Jushin Liger?
For me, it's Jushin Liger. I love Ultimo Dragon as well. I know that I've watched way more Jushin Liger, so I'm going to say Jushin Liger.
I did get to see him live on his last tour of the United States, so I was very happy to have seen him live.
Did you go to that those NXT shows he worked?
No, it was in Concord, North Carolina, and it was I'll never remember the name of the company now. It wasn't Evolve. It was I can't remember the company. Their color scheme was green. I don't even know if they're still running. Fairly big promotion, but I can't remember the name of the company. Wow, that's gonna make me crazy. I'm having an off day mentally here. But it was cool because he worked the main event. It was a tag match. And he came out and they couldn't even start the match because we were all chanting his name. And he was going to lock up and he couldn't. So everybody stopped and he went like this, like he was touched, like it was, oh, thank you so much, that kind of thing. But I'm like, this guy's a legend. It's the last time he'll come to the stage. You better believe we're going to. So we did have everybody there. It was the loudest it was during the main event, which was pretty cool.
One of my favorite wrestling photos of all time is that picture of Jushin Thunder Liger in full gimmick bowling.
I don't think I've seen that.
I don't know why. I'll send it to you, but it's pretty great.
PWX. I think that's the promotion. Have you heard of them?
No, I have not.
I don't know if they get out of the Carolinas or not. Back to the question of family. Sugar Shane says Randy Savage, Lanny Poffo, Eddie and Doug Gilbert. Yeah, just it stopped with Doug, right? Was there anybody from the Gilbert family after Doug? I don't know if there was.
Well, I mean, the question, to be fair, was children and even grandchildren.
So. Oh, there you go. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. He nailed it.
Ted DiBiase Jr. Yeah. Well,
which is so crazy because he had such a good push and was talented in the ring. I don't know. I don't know the story of Ted DiBiase Jr. I'm assuming that there was something more nefarious happening behind the scenes there.
Well, we know his dad got in trouble with was it embezzlement? I think with a charity, I believe it was.
Yeah, but that was after the what was it, Evolution or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that there was
legacy.
Yeah, I'm assuming there was something personality-wise that was amiss there.
Brock Purdy just got overpaid. Did he get overpaid there, Chris, you think?
That's the current market. There's no one else out there that they could get unless they're going to trade for like Kirk Cousins. Because Aaron Rodgers is probably the second best available, and he's pretty much going to be locked up to the Steelers. So, unless they're just willing to tank next year, that's the thing is like with quarterbacks being such a high premium, that price is always going to go up. You're just going to have to pay whoever you can pay.
I have a different viewpoint on the argument that athletes are overpaid, because my viewpoint has evolved to being the team and the owner will always make more off the player than the player is going to make from the owner. So if you're a player, I say make every dime you can.
Well, I agree with that. I think overpaid in the sense of his position within the league, right, was more of the statement.
Like whether or not he's physically can get the job done based on.
Well, just in comparison to other quarterbacks, like how much are they making? Like that's in the realm or a little higher than Dak Prescott, right? So it's not, like I said, there's no other options. So when you have no other options, you can ask for whatever you want, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, Robbie said David Flair was wet behind the ears, and David Flair through no fault of his own, had a tough go of it. Yeah, tough go of it. I think a lot of that was Bischoff just wanting to get the Flair family involved, and Rick wasn't. According to Rick's book, he was not crazy about his family being involved in that storyline.
David Flair has some really entertaining segments within late WCW. Him and Crowbar and Daphne. There's some weird but entertaining things there. The actual in-ring work was what was kind of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Especially because they had him working like weird stretcher matches, and like you're talking Russo time period of booking. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate.
It is. Tully Blanchard or Arn Anderson?
I mean, Arn.
Yeah.
I have a funny story I will tell one day when we have more time about Manny Fernandez telling me about a fight inside of a Denny's he had where Tully Blanchard didn't help him. It's great.
Didn't help him. That's wonderful. No one can dispute how amazing Tully and Arn were together, but I do think Arn was the constant in that team.
Well, I mean, Tully was kind of nothing outside of that tag team, whereas Arn was in other tag teams and just as successful.
Right. Well, kids, we are at the top of the hour, past the top of the hour now. Hour 20 and hour 12 on the count. Chris, before we get out of here, tell everybody where they can find you on the internet.
At Chris R. Patton on Twitter and Christopher.R.Patton on both Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. There you go. Again, I'm gonna ask you, what are we looking at for timeline here? Are we thinking June, July for the rollout?
I'm gonna stop getting timelines because every time I give a timeline, something happens in my life that
you keep moving the goalposts. That's what's happening.
I know. I'm moving the goalposts. We will see. I'll keep everyone up to date. I'm
Awesome.
sure I will be back before. Well, hopefully it'll be launched next time I'm back. But I'm sure I'll be on either 6M. Like plug your stuff.
Hey.
Maybe before it's up and running, so I can give an update there as well.
Hey, there you go. Hey, man, thanks as always for hanging out, brother.
Thanks for having me. Rest in peace, Sabu. Everyone have a happy and safe weekend out there.
Absolutely. There you go, folks. That's Chris Patton. Thanks again to him for joining us here today. My overlay doesn't fit now. My head's hitting the buy me a coffee thing. By the way, kids, if you'd like to buy the man a coffee, and I'm talking about me, if you'd like to, there is the link. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. Few bucks here and there, I'd appreciate it. And again, whether or not any of my stuff goes behind a paywall, at some point it may just for bonus content. But this show, I'm never going to charge for this or the 6M. I just don't want to do that. You know what I mean? It's just no desire to do that. But also, I want to make you aware of Tom Clark Reviews, brand new YouTube show. So if you will, go check that out, kids. I appreciate you very much hanging out with us, listening and watching live and after the fact. And we appreciate you very much for being here. Kids, do me a favor. Have a great weekend. And if nothing doesn't happen, we'll be back here again a week from today. Check out the latest episode of Tom Clark's 6M Podcast coming up this Tuesday. Phil Lindsay and I review Thunderbolts, so it's well worth your time. And as we said, check out Tom Clark Reviews on the YouTube. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time, kids.